I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Philip Turl. Philip, hello.
Hello there, Alison.
Tell us more about this statement from these 18 countries. What do they say and why is it happening now?
Okay, so this is an initiative that was drawn up by the United States, I think to put pressure on Hamas to come up with some kind of deal pretty quickly to get the hostages released from captivity in Israel. You've seen all these protests going on in the United States and elsewhere calling for the hostages to be released and an end to what is going on in the Gaza Strip. So this is, I think, putting the pressure not only on Gaza, on Hamas, but also on the Israelis. 18 countries, you are right, including the United States. You can see them all behind me. They've all signed this call for the release of the hostages, some of the hostages coming from these 18 countries. And what they're basically saying is that we call for the immediate release of all hostages held by Hamas in Gaza for over 200 days. They include our own citizens, the fate of the hostages and the civilian population in Gaza who are protected under international law is of international concern. What they're really trying to do here is to say that if you agree to releasing these hostages, it will lead to an immediate ceasefire on the one side, and on the other side, it will lead to the introduction, the bringing in of urgently needed humanitarian aid. So there is a two-point plan here by these countries that have signed all this, saying this has gone on long enough. We need to move forward. We need to bring those hostages home. We need to move forward also on signing a ceasefire deal to give some respite to all those 1.5 million people in the Gaza Strip who are living in very dire conditions.
And how is Hamas likely to respond to this? Have we heard from them?
Well, I think that you can safely say at the moment that Hamas is not willing to listen to this statement. Basically, I think what is happening here is that Israel and Hamas are accusing each other of not wanting to play fairly in all of this. There is a ceasefire proposal. This is it, with 342-day stages already agreed by the United States, by Hamas, by Qatar and by Egypt, saying that hostages should be released in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. There should be a permanent ceasefire agreement and an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. What the Israelis are saying is that this is unrealistic and that Hamas needs to make a greater effort. What Hamas is saying is basically that Israel is dragging its feet and not wanting to move forward with any kind of ceasefire deal. I think what the big disagreement here is that Hamas wants a permanent ceasefire, but Israel insists on the total eradication of Hamas and is not willing to agree to a ceasefire or to pull out its troops from the Gaza Strip until Hamas has been completely eradicated.
Negotiations are continuing, though, Philip. There's a delegation of high-ranking Egyptian officials expected to hold talks with Israeli officials later today. Is there any hope that that might lead to a breakthrough?
Well, since I was talking to Sharon just a short while ago, there have been one or two updates on this. The first one is that these talks are expected to take place in Tel Aviv today. There have already been discussions behind the scene going on over the past few days between Egypt and Israel. What we know is that the Egyptian delegation is led by the head of Egypt's intelligence directorate, whose name is Abbas Kamal. He'll be meeting with the head of Mossad, the security organization in Israel. There are some reports this meeting could take place in Cairo, but it looks pretty certain that it has been agreed to take place in Tel Aviv today. What Egypt wants to do here is to push Israel not to launch its ground offensive in Rafah. It says that would be a catastrophe for the Palestinians living in Rafah. And what Egypt also doesn't want is for thousands of Palestinians to try to get into Egypt. Egypt wants them to remain in the Gaza Strip. So that is the main aim of these discussions taking place today, we think, in Tel Aviv between Israel and Egyptian authorities.
All right, well, hopefully something will come out of those talks. Philip, thank you very much for that. That's our international affairs editor, Philip Turl.